And we looked at several series and had the opportunity to talk to each other and really talk about what our vision is for where we'd like math to go in the upcoming years. It was a really reflective process. We talked about where we're at, some of our strengths and weaknesses, and where it is that we'd like to go in the future. So we put a presentation together just to sort of talk about the process that we went through during this time period.
And as you can tell from the first screen, the program that we looked at that we chose as the committee was the Go Math program. We just want to give you some background as to how we came to that decision. So the first thing we're looking at is our current math programs, our strengths. We have some common assessments, which is progress monitoring, but it's not used district-wide by all teachers. It is a research-based progress monitoring program. We do the performance series that gives us the beginning, middle, and end of the year benchmarks. And we have the quarterly math assessments that are given at all grade levels, 1st through 6th grade, that were teacher created based on our curriculum. We obviously have our PSSA test scores, and we are working on a vertical alignment for the math curriculum. We've been working on this for several years. We kind of got into it again last year, and then we found out that the state is heading towards the Common Core standards, which are a lot different in a lot of areas than where we are right now with the standards that we're using. So we're going to have to sit back down again and look at the Common Core standards to redo the vertical alignment from kindergarten through all the way to 12th grade. Obviously, we will concentrate on kindergarten through 6th grade.
We were then asked to look at the weaknesses of our current math program. And one of the first things that came, of course, was just it not being aligned to the Common Core, which we knew that we would run into. And all the books that we did look at actually are aligned to the Common Core. Some are just a little bit easier to see than others. Right now, it's an inconsistent vocabulary and teaching methods that are being utilized throughout the school districts, which we found, especially with the lower achieving students, it's very difficult whenever you were to pull them into intervention groups and they've heard a concept talked about 3 different ways. It's really hard to pull that all together for them. So common vocabulary, I think, would help with that problem. As far as interventions and enrichment, we work really hard as teachers to do interventions for those low achieving students as well as enrichment. But again, because we're creating them teacher-wise, they are very different from teacher to teacher, from grade level to grade level. So I think it would be beneficial on all spectrums to have that to be a common component. Poor development of number sense, and that's something that we know starts in kindergarten, but we see the effect of not having number sense as they go through, K through 6, especially in 6th grade, where we're asking them to know a lot of different concepts, multiplying, dividing, things like that. That's a very hard thing to do if they don't know how to manipulate numbers and they're not flexible with number as far as their thinking goes. Right now, we don't have a huge component as far as home and school, as well as technology. So anything that we send home to the parents is what we've created. But as far as the parents being able to go onto a computer and see what the lessons are, what our homework looks like, what the books are, that's not there currently. Inconsistent assessment system, like Anita said, we do have some common assessments, but not when it comes to at the end of chapter test or beginning, middle, and end of year benchmark test. So it's a little bit harder to track student growth when, again, we don't have common assessment. Lack of math talk and multiple representations, just giving the children the chance to be able to talk about that, letting them have conversation to express their multiple representations of solving a math problem. That's lacking right now in our current system as well. Because all those things are lacking, transition between grade levels tends to be very difficult. What we find is that we have to do a lot of reteaching at the beginning of the year because they're not coming with the retention that we're hoping that they do. So we're doing a lot of reteaching, which causes us to have to really hurry our pace along throughout the year with some of the new concepts that are being presented. There's some gaps in foundational skills, and right now, currently, the rigor is not quite there, and as far as independent thinking, we'd like to have a little bit more of that. It's a little guided practice, a little too spoon-fed, so we're hoping that through some of the more problem-solving skills that they're going to get with the new series, they'll be able to be more independent thinkers as well.
Well, to start the entire process, what we did was we formed a committee, and we used teachers from all 5 of the buildings. We have teacher representation K through 6, we had learning support, Title I, and we also had the junior and senior high math teacher leaders come and be part of the committee to offer us their guidance of what they expect the students to know once they get to their level. We also had the elementary building principals and the assistant superintendent as part of our committee. Beginning our committee, we actually met 6 different times. Our first meeting, we met and reviewed the process of how we would go about selecting a new math program. And we also created a rubric at this point. If you look inside your folders, there's actually a copy of the rubric that we used. And we focused on the content, instruction, assessment, meeting student needs, teacher support, and the technology component. Once we formed this rubric, then on our second and third meeting, on each of those we reviewed 3 different math series. Each teacher then pulled their grade level that they taught and filled out the rubric independently from the group to be able to rate it in all of those different categories. At the conclusion of our third meeting, we then, together as a team, decided which were our top 3 math series. Based on that, in meeting 4, we had the different companies come and present those 3 math series to us. After we had the presentations, we had our 5th meeting where we talked about our consensus. What math program were we going to choose? And did it have all the qualities that we were looking for? So during that meeting, we started off with what our vision was. Where were we now in math and where did we want to go? And we reviewed back to meeting number 1, and then we came back to meeting number 5, and we really wanted to make sure that we picked something that would meet all of our needs. As we went through our meeting, we were there till like 8:30, and we decided at that point that we needed to call another meeting. So on meeting number 6, we actually went through each of the different series that we took a closer look at, those 3. And what we focused on the individual programs. We listed the strengths of the programs. We also talked about the needs for the program to support student success, because that's our main goal. We also talked about the needs for the program to produce effective instruction to support the vision that we wanted in math. We talked about the different research with all the 3 different math series and which one would best suit our needs here at Greater Latrobe. We also talked about any concerns that we had with implementing any of the 3 math programs, and we talked about any flaws that we wouldn't be able to fix, because out of all of the math series that we looked, none were perfect and met every single one of our needs. We actually evaluated these 6 different math programs: Singapore Math, Envisions, Everyday Math, Investigations, Go Math, and My Math. Out of these 6, we narrowed it down to our top 3 choices, which were Everyday Math, Investigations, and Go Math. And as our consensus, as the entire committee, we're presenting to you Go Math.
And the reasons why we picked the Go Math, we listed some of the strengths that are in the program. But as Jessica said, none of the programs we looked at were absolutely perfect. But we feel the program that we picked is the best for what we need at Greater Latrobe. We found out it is aligned to the Common Core standards. We all looked at our grade levels. I know in particular I picked out certain Common Core standards that I was looking for, particularly new ones that are at the 5th grade level this year. I wanted to make sure they were in those books, and every one that I looked for I found. There is consistent vocabulary and teaching methods from kindergarten through 6th grade. It's really nice to see how things are built at the kindergarten level and then how it just carries on up through 6th grade. It does tend to have the components, the interventions, and the enrichment that we are looking at, particularly the enrichment, trying to take those higher level kids to the next step. That's extremely difficult to do. I personally think it's easier to take a student at a lower level and take them to the next level. But when you get a kid already at a high level, to move them even further, to show a year's worth of growth, that's hard to do. So you truly do need an enrichment component of a program to help you do that. There is a development of a strong number sense beginning in kindergarten that's carried all the way through 6th grade. The homeschool connection is there. There's the technology component. It's tied right into our smart board, things that particularly someone like me who is, as Mrs. Holler will attest, technology is not my strength. I still flick lights whenever I want attention, so it's very easy. I even feel that someone at my age will be able to incorporate the technology component. There is a common assessment system through kindergarten through a 6th grade, and we talk about the balance between the product and the process. The product is not necessarily the most important part, it's the process. How do you get to that product? And that's what we're trying to get these kids to realize, that there's often more than just one process to get to a final product, and to get them to be thinking about that process on their own instead of someone telling them what to do all the time. There's a lot of math talk. That's the big thing, all right, we're talking math now. It's 15 minutes. Let's just talk. What are we doing? What do you see? What do you notice? And that's built into the program. and there's also multiple representations when it comes into problem solving.
What's really nice with the home and school connection and Think Central, it's the same as the language arts one that we have right now. So the parents would be able to go to one spot and be able to find all the materials in language arts and in math.
There is a smooth transition between the grade levels. So we talked about the students retaining the material, so hopefully we will see that retention from grade level to grade level. There is a lot of emphasis on problem solving in real life settings, so our students understand, why are we doing this? Why do I have to do this? Why is it important? The rigor is there. I'm a true believer that we need more rigor in the math, and I think this program is leading us in that direction. I'm not so sure it's where we want it to be, but it definitely is probably the best of the three programs that there is the rigor. We may have to incorporate a few other things with it, and the independent thinking, as Heather referred to, we call it spoon feeding the kids. We have to get away from that. We have to get away from having these kids realize, I have to stand on my own 2 feet, and I have to learn how to solve this problem. Instead of someone saying, here's how it's done. And I think that's where this program is going to lead us to that.
This is Poland. Along those lines, talk about the real-time professional development available for teachers electronically through the program.
Oh, they have podcasts. They're actually little videos that if there's a lesson that you're not quite sure of what to do, you can go to the podcast, and you can actually view a teacher doing the lesson, so that then as you prepare the lesson or you want to do the lesson. I can't wait for next year. I picked up a few neat things that I like. I thought, I never thought of that before. But it actually takes it from the beginning to the end of the lesson. The teacher can sit down and can view it, so that they're not they're not out there thinking, oh, how do I do this? I don't know anything about it. So the podcasts are really nice that come with the program.
And it's really teacher friendly. I mean, they give us a great pacing guide, so we know how long we have for a particular unit. The podcast, like you said, it would just be great for new teachers coming in, or even just other teachers trying to come up with different ideas, because they're not reaching their students. It's very teacher friendly.
It is.
It's really teacher friendly. And then as far as Go Math goes, as far as future needs, just like Anita said, no matter what program we looked at, there was something that wasn't quite what we were looking for. When we went in, what we were trying to really figure out is, can we find a balance between skill practice as well as like your inquiry-based hands-on learning? And what we found is we couldn't find the perfect series that meshed them both together. So when we looked at like the three programs that we looked at, investigations was very, very, very strong in inquiry-based, hands-on, a lot of great questioning, but it lacked a lot of skill foundational work. When we looked at everyday math, what we found was we actually had representation from the junior high and high school, and we found that there were gaps coming from the elementary to the junior high to the high school with using everyday math. And then when we went with Go Math, it had the best of the balance out of all three of them, but what we feel that we'll probably have to really work on is just getting some sort of professional development to try to incorporate more inquiry-based type of learning. Very good as far as guided instruction, but I think as far as teachers who maybe have not used inquiry-based, I think some professional development will need to be put towards that. In saying that, then we probably need some supplemental material to go along with it. The last thing we thought of was just teacher collaboration. I think out of all the things that we talked about, when we got together, the best part of this process was being able to talk to teachers across the district from different grade levels, different buildings. It was so empowering. It was such a great reflection process. So I think in order for this Go Math series to work, we just need time built in to do such a thing. Oh, and I guess, well, the last thing is just cost. The cost, and we so, which is probably really important, but Dr. Prime is the handler.
Essentially, the cost component, when you look at it, traditionally, if you remember when we purchased a reading series, we looked at around $500,000. And that was for that first initial purchase. It did not include the recurring costs and so forth. With this program, we're looking at a 5-year cost purchased up front of $124,749. That includes all professional development provided from their end as well. The whole well-rounded intervention component, enrichment component, the whole kits to help with acquired-based learning, with the manipulators and so forth. So it is a comprehensive K-6 program, and really, it really ties together math and language just language arts in this world. And so, but I want to most of all commend the committee. I will tell you that their level of professionalism was impeccable. The conversation was deep, it was rich. I walked out knowing a lot more about mathematics instruction than when I walked in, because it's pretty amazing when you get professionals at that level of their game in their room. So I want to commend them and thank them, and thank our administrative team. I know the night that it lists 8:30, there were still people in my office. It was around 10:15. So the meeting officially broke, and people stayed to talk and work further with the program. So there's a lot of time commitment, and all members of that committee did it on a voluntary basis. I appreciate it. So next week we will ask for your support.
Thank you on behalf of the board too. I was very impressed by your presentation and your professionalism. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like to take any component of the program with you to look at over the next week, you are welcome to do so. It is behind you. Have a good time.
thank you again. On your agenda for next week, item number 3 would be to award the 2012 summer education grants, and that'll be ready for your approval next week. I believe you got some information in your packet about to approve the Penn Highlands Accelerated College dual enrollment for 2012-2013, and Mr. Freilich is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you. When you walk in the front of the senior high school, when you're walking the commons and you're greeted by that giant Hershey kiss, if you look right to the right of that, there is a display case with approximately 45 photos of our students. And above that, it says, make the most of your opportunities. It says, make the most of your opportunities. And when you look, you see pictures of our students doing various things, whether it's in the fine arts, whether it's at EWCTC, whether it's in the lab sciences, or perhaps on the athletic fields. Students are displaying their talents and really making the most of their opportunities here at Greater Latrobe. Mr. LaCasio and I have been in conversation all year. We know there are a lot of people out there who believe that the traditional classroom setting, that there are other ways of doing it. Okay, it doesn't have to be within the brick and mortar in terms of education. We believe when we see our students every day and we see the photos of our students and the things that they are achieving within this building, we ask ourselves, what is it that we can do? What is it that we can do within Greater Latrobe that will make our students say, I want to be here every single day? I don't want to get in my vehicle and drive down to WCCC and take credits, or perhaps consider a cyber school. I want to be here in Greater Latrobe. We talk about programs and offering things for students that make it valuable. This evening I passed out a handout, and at the very top of the handout it says Penn Highlands. It's in green. All of you should have that. If you don't, I have extra copies here. We're talking about dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is not a new concept. In fact, it's been here for over 10 years. The way that school districts offer dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment has varied. We, at Greater Latrobe, since I've been here, we've always, with dual enrollment money that was available from the state, we've encouraged our students to take college courses off our campus. However, now that the dual enrollment money is not available, we believe, and when we look at what other schools are doing, there's opportunities within our own building to offer college credits that students can take while they're taking the classes here at Greater Latrobe. If you look at schools across Westmoreland County, they're also exploring this opportunity. We started entering in conversations with Penn Highlands last year, and we have found that Penn Highlands is able to meet some of these needs at the most affordable price for our students. In this handout, at the very bottom, it lists some highlights about the Penn Highlands concurrent agreement that we would like to enter into. And for $39 a credit, students can earn 3 and 4 college credits here while they're taking their own courses. 10 teachers within a senior high school expressed interest in making their courses available for dual enrollment here at the senior high school. To me, that's a heck of a good start for year one if we could do that. You look at the rising cost of college education. If a student could leave here with some credits in their name, if they could leave Greater Latrobe and have a Greater Latrobe diploma and be able to take 10, 15, 20 credits with them, that makes a significant impact on their freshman year of college. Perhaps it allows them more time to focus on different things while they're at school. It allows them an opportunity to not have to load up their schedule, 18 credits, which would be very strenuous their freshman year because they would have picked up a few here at high school. And it might give them an opportunity to actually graduate in 4 years. We believe this is a win-win. It's a win for our students, it's certainly a win for our parents, and it's also a win for our teachers. In teaching a course at the college level, we're looking to up the rigor as well. We're looking to have higher expectations for our classes to make sure that they are being taught at that level. In Penn Highlands, which is a community college in Cambria County, it was formerly known as Cambria County Community College until I think 2004 they changed their name to Penn Highlands. They are also, so far they've been wonderful to work with, but they are very interested in making sure that we maintain a level of rigor that is going to be appropriate to award college credit as well. What you should know that Penn Highlands is Middle States approved, which is an accrediting agency that basically says that if a student takes a credit and is awarded Penn Highlands credits, that those credits up to 30 will be transferable to just about any institution that is out there. That's pretty significant. The list that you are seeing here with the 10 teachers, 9 classes total, is a terrific start, as I mentioned earlier. I hope that this list, there's a lot of room on this paper for this list to possibly grow. It's a 1-year agreement. Each year we can look at it, see how it goes, and we can look to perhaps expand with Penn Highlands or consider other opportunities. But I think one thing is for certain, when you're talking to parents about the rising cost of college tuition, being able to offer students the opportunity to pick up some college credits, that's a tremendous benefit for them. And we're very excited to offer that. And we know that our teachers, and the teachers on this page that I have here, especially who have stepped up and they want to be the pioneers of offering credits within Greater Latrobe, we know that they are capable of delivering that instruction. You see them every day in action, and we certainly know that they're able to deliver that quality of instruction in the classroom. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Can these credits replace the AP test?
Yes, they can.
I thought they could.
Yes, in fact, interesting enough, I just talked to a student, a junior, who was so nervous about his AP Calc exam coming up. He said, Mr. Garlick, I've had 4, I'm working on my 4th A. He said, I gotta take the AP exam, and I'm so nervous about it. He goes, I've had Mrs. Pompilia, my brother had Mrs. Pompilia, he has tested out at Pitt from calculus. He said, I know for a fact I've earned these credits, and it all comes down to the test. And I just thought, if he had that opportunity for Penn Highlands, I wouldn't be writing on a test. So, yes.
Yeah, and the AP test costs around $100 anyway, so
That is
they're
correct.
paying a few more dollars and they're guaranteed pretty much these credits as long as.
For $117 to earn 3 college credits, yeah, that's significant. That's something. Any other questions?
I just want to make note that everybody understands that students can still enroll in these courses and not be enrolled in the college credit program.
Correct.
So make sure that's all.
Yes, they would receive 2 grades, okay? A grade from Greater Latrobe, and just a class of 20 students. 10 students may be enrolled in Penn Highlands, 10 not. Everyone would receive a Greater Latrobe credit, but only the 10 that would be enrolled would receive that Penn Highlands credit, which would require the teacher to submit those grades to them. Correct. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On your agenda next week will be the 2011 and 2012 tuition rates, both elementary, secondary, and you will need to approve those. And also, returning tuition students will be on your agenda next week for approval. Then it's my part of the meeting, and I'll turn it over to finance business development.
The treasurer's report and payment materials will be appoint the 511 tax collectors next week and designate depositories, reappoint the school district treasurer, give authorization to invest funds, and have Act 1 and Act 25 payment of school real estate taxes in installments, which are new laws that allow that, and we'll be discussing how to do that.
Can I jump in real quick on that?
Okay.
Basically, Act 25 states that effective July 1st, 2012, all employers were required, or school districts were required to offer small businesses the opportunity to make their property tax payments in installments. It's similar to Act 1, which took effect in 2007, where that opportunity was given all for homestead and farmstead. We had a meeting with the tax collection office in Westmoreland County, and I say we, I mean all the school districts in Westmoreland County. And we unanimously agreed, rather than just make the installment payments available to small businesses, we would make them available to all taxpayers, just make it available county-wide. We believe that it would be more efficient to do it that way. And we also believe that it's unlikely that too many people will choose this option, because if you elect an installment option, you forfeit your right to pay the discount. So again, that's Act 25, and once we get the approval, we'll notify the county, and mailing will go out prior to July 1.
And you've all received a copy of the 12-13 general fund proposed final budget, and I'll turn it over to Dan, but I'd like you to know that well, even before the end of the year, we were talking about this with each meeting, and this is the end result of all the discussion that we've had so far, and now it's up to the rest of the board to participate in discussion.
Thank you, Mrs. Elder. Yeah, as Mrs. Elder mentioned, we've been talking about this at the Finance Committee since December. So we've been reviewing the numbers and all the data and refining it as best we can. Basically, if you look at the very first page, it just shows the motion as the motion is required to read. And it states that, and I'm just going to summarize, the proposed final budget for the 12-13 school year be approved in the amount of $48,963,290. Attached to that report are or to that summary page are 5 reports that I'm going to review. Before I do that, I want to make note that, again, we are required to adopt the proposed final budget by May 31st, so we will need action at the May 22nd meeting. And it is just the proposed final budget. The final budget isn't due to be adopted until June 30th. We're required to adopt them by June 30th. We have a meeting on June 26th. We'll be doing that. So any feedback following this meeting, I'll be open to it, and I will share that feedback with the Finance Committee. You're welcome to talk to some of the other Finance Committee members as well. If you look at the first page, or the first report, I should say, it's titled Summary Budget Report. What we attempted to do with this report is to highlight all of the major areas of increase as far as expenditures go, as well as the areas of increase for revenue, so that you can see where we get to those numbers. Under budgeted area, under expenditures, we've noted ECATS Academy, and that shows an increase of $55,000. As you're aware, last year, or I should say, during last year's budget development process for the 11-12 school year, we introduced the concept of developing ECATS Academy. Well, there's some increased costs that occur because of that. But I can reassure you there's decreased costs on our cyber charter school tuitions because the program is working out very well, which will offset that cost. But I just wanted to note, why that line item is showing as an increase. The second line item there is noted as audio-visual, and it's going up $65,000. And we used stimulus money in the previous year to equip all of the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classrooms with smart boards. And we'd like to continue that process and upgrade each of the 3rd grade classrooms with smart boards. So that's included in this preliminary budget. And that's the majority of the reason why there's an increase of $65,000 to that line item. Technology, we're looking at an increase of about $150,000. We're moving in the direction of a BYOD environment. It included in this budget process, or budget, is the desktop virtualization. There are increased costs initially implementation of that. We believe over the long term that we're actually going to realize a reduced cost to our technology budget by creating an environment where those BYOD devices will be utilized. So, professional development, we're looking at an increase of about $150,000. Some of that reason is for the new textbook purchases that presentation just occurred before we started speaking about the budget, as well as some additional training that is needed, some professional development training. Business operations, we're looking at an increase of about $209,000, and that increase is mainly for the vocational education budget, which we approved. That went up slightly, as well as debt service. As you're aware, we adopted our debt service line item is slightly going up on the expenditure side, but it is also going up on the revenue side. So there's a net zero impact to the budget for debt service for the 13-14 year. It's just more of accounting. Our expenditures are going up with the reimbursement that we receive from the state on the revenue side is also going up, which offsets that increase. In addition to what makes up that $209,000 is the athletic budget, which we've discussed in the past, is going up slightly. Basically, that's going up for the contract for wages. And then we have board services costs that are part of that that will also be going up. And that deals a little bit with the philanthropic effort that we've entered into. So that brings the total building and support budget increase to about $115,000. Salary increases are about $462,000. Retirement is going up about $838,000. Again, the employer contribution is going from 8.65% to 12.36% next year, which results in a significant increase to our overall budget. And then the miscellaneous of about $134,000, that makes up our FICA costs, tuition reimbursement, unemployment comp, and workers' compensation. So the total salary and benefits is going up a little over $1.4 million. Our insurances are only going up about $27,000. Honestly, though, we're projecting our medical insurance to go up by about 8%, which makes up a larger piece of that. But we also have a line item for OPEB insurance, which stands for other post-employment benefits, and that deals with the retirement incentives. And we have a group of retirees who will be falling off our health care coverage that offset the 8% increase in the medical cost. So the net cost there is about $27,000. So our net expenditure is about a little over $1.5 million increase. As far as revenues go, we're looking at an increase in real estate tax. It's going up about $72,000. That's a result of our assessed value notification we received from the county. The assessed values of our home are going up by about $1 million, which is a good thing. It shows the little bit of that the economy is getting better and hopefully turning around. Our interim real estate tax, we're projecting about $50,000 increase. And again, that's a result, basically what I do there is I look at where we're trending. It's trending slightly upward, so I use the most current year actual cost to make that projection. Same thing with your income tax, delinquent real estate tax. I use the same process as far as looking at our most current actual line item to make adjustments there. It says fees of a $76,000 increase. The items to make up the fees are, we instituted the pay to park, driver's education, as well as the laptop leasing fee. So that's included in that dollar amount. Tuition, we receive tuition payments from other LEAs. We've talked about taking over an autistic program at the secondary level. We anticipate to have 2 potential students that will enroll in that program that are outside of the district, so therefore we'll have to pay tuition. So that makes up that increased cost. Refund expenditures, we have some psychological service days that we're going to be looking to sell back to the intermediate unit that impacted that line item, which resulted in an increase. So our total local revenue is projected to increase by about $539,000. The state revenue, transportation subsidy, the rental subsidy, as I noted before, that under the business office expenditure line item, we're looking at an increase to the debt service. It's offset by this rental subsidy, which is the reimbursement that we get from the state. So again, there's a $0 impact. The budgeted line item for debt service is the exact same as it was for the 11-12 school year. Social Security subsidy is increasing The Social Security subsidy and the transportation subsidy were originally bundled as part of Governor Corbett's SAE, what was that, Student Achievement Education Block Grant, which now there's a proposal to not necessarily go that direction, but that's where those line items came from. We basically took what he put out as his preliminary budget and used those numbers in each of those line items. The retirement subsidy, the state reimburses us 50% of our expenditures. So as I noted above, the expenditure increase of about $838,000 is offset by the additional subsidy that we receive from the state for retirement reimbursement. PA accountability, there's a decrease of about $172,000, but as Dr. Laughlin mentioned in the PSBA report, hopefully they will be reinstating a portion of that accountability block grant, and we can plug that back into the budget. So total state, we're looking at about $569,000 increase. Federal, we're looking at about $10,000 increase, and then the other line item, we're looking at about $41,000 decrease, which brings our net revenue increase to slightly over $1 million. So our existing shortfall right now is $499,500. So that's what we're looking at this point in time. If you flip to the next report, it's titled Proposed Final Budget Report. And I'm not going to go through that in any great detail because, again, it just provides a little bit more detail to what I just reviewed to you in that summary, but I did want to provide it to you so that you could scan through and hopefully generate some discussion at a later meeting. But just to highlight very quickly, if you look at the first 5 line items on that report, it deals with the building level budgets. Each of our buildings were given allocations this year, and all 5 of the buildings were able to stay within those allocations. And actually, in most cases, they were able to come underneath those allocations. So that's why there's decreases in each of those areas. And the other reason I point that out is because the budget development process is collaborative, and our teacher leaders and our building administrators have done an excellent job of really going through and with a fine-tooth comb of the budget, making adjustments where necessary. Then the other item I wanted to note is special education. And if you look at special education, we're projecting that line item to go down by $203,000. And again, that's part of the, as a result of taking over the autistic support classroom at the secondary level. We won't have to send the students out to pay tuition. So in addition to that program generating some additional revenue through other LEAs or other schools making tuition payments to us, it also reduces the amount of tuition we're paying out to other schools to educate those students. So I think that is going to be a good thing for the district from a financial standpoint as well as for our students. Transportation, if you get on a little bit further, you'll see a decrease of about $100,000. We're sharing some transportation costs with surrounding schools, sharing some vans, doing some creative things. Mr. Mears working with some of the other schools. So we're able to reduce that budget line item by about $100,000. So again, in summary, the building and support budgets increases about $115,000, which is about 0.7% increase. The salary and benefits section, we're looking at an increase of about 1.4, which is about a 6% increase. But I want to note that the salary piece is only 2%. The retirement piece is 46%. So that retirement spike is really what's led to the 6% overall increase in that particular category. The insurances, again, we're looking at about 0.6% increase. So our total expenditures are projected to go up by about 3%. Our revenues are projected to go up by about 2%, which again led to that shortfall of $499,500, which would lead to a mill increase of about 1.5 mills. Okay. The other thing I wanted to note, if you look at the revenue section on the bottom right-hand side, it just breaks out the percentage of revenue that we receive from local, state, and federal. And as I know you're all aware, the largest portion is the local, which is 63%. State is 35%. Federal is 1.5%, and that other category is 0.5%. If you get to the next report, it is titled the Teaser's Projected Increase. And while we're experiencing a negative impact for the 12-13 school year, I didn't want to lose sight of long-range planning, so I wanted to share with you what those projected increases are over the next 4 years. If you look at it, the net increase in the budget next year is $432,000. The net increase from the 12-13 to the school year is $524,000. The following year, it'd be $573,000. And then in the 15-16 school year, it'd be $367,000. So over the next 4 years, we're looking at an impact for retirement costs, a net impact of about close to $1.9 million, which is pretty significant. So I think it's important that we continue to discuss that and keep that in mind when we're deciding what we want to do with this year's budget, because we're going to be impacted by this retirement piece for years to come. Okay, so I just wanted to share that. The next report is titled Fund Balance Utilization. And we're recommending at this time that we use a portion of our existing fund balance to offset some one-time, non-recurring expenditures that we anticipate having for next school year. And I tried to break those out for you. The first line item says upgrade to our technology infrastructure. And we'd like to use about $340,000 of our fund balance to implement that project this summer. We talked about it at the technology committee level, and if we would, and we need to do this again as part of our long-range plan to develop an environment where the BYOD option is a possibility. But we looked at doing this and phasing it in over a 3-year period. And to phase it in over a 3-year period, it was going to cost about $455,000. If we did it all at one time, it was projected to cost about $340,000. We had this conversation with the technology committee. We figured we could save about 25% of the cost if we did it all at one time. And if we have the funds available to do so, that would be our recommendation when we move forward with that project this summer and implement it, this summer. So that's one piece of the fund balance use. The second line item is purchase new core math and pre-calc history curriculum. And again, that's part of the presentation that just occurred. I know that Jamie had mentioned some good news. I think the total cost was closer to $125,000 or $130,000. I was not aware of that. I anticipated from previous conversations that I've had with Jamie about $150,000. So what we'd like to do is use a portion of that fund balance to make those purchases. And then the final line is the bond issuance cost. And again, that's about $129,000. If you recall, when Bob Lumber was here from Jamie Montgomery and Scott, and he talked about doing the bond issuance, there were some closing costs. And we talked about we did not want to have the bond issuance to have any impact on our budget line item specific for the debt service. So for that not to occur, we need to use a portion of this. And it was part of this presentation. So we used about $130,000 of our fund balance so that we can maintain that exact same line item and not have any impact on that budgeted line item for next year's budget. And then the final piece, and I apologize, I know I'm talking very quickly and going through this quickly, but this is the last piece of my field of questions that you might have, is millage impact. A lot of times when we talk about setting a budgeted amount, the discussion turns to, well, what will that millage increase? How will that impact, our taxpayers? So I tried to provide a chart to show what a 1 mil increase and a 1.5 mil increase and a 1.64 mil increase and how that would impact our average homeowners. Again, we're proposing at this stage a 1.5 mil increase, which would impact the average assessed value of one of our homeowners is around $25,000. So a 1.5 mil increase would impact that individual about $38 a year. Okay, so just keep in mind that 1 mil is roughly about $25 a year. So as I stated at the beginning, this is the proposed budget. I'm happy to field any questions. If you don't have any at this time, please digest it. Get back to me. We have a meeting in June, a finance committee meeting in June where we'll have further dialogue, and then we'll be moving forward with the full board meeting in the month of June for final adoption.
I have a question, Dan.
Yes.
If we approve this budget at the next meeting, if the state comes through with more funds, you can always go lower on the millage, is that correct?
You're correct, yes. Yep.
I propose then that nobody likes to pay taxes, but I feel like if we're allowed to do a 1.64 mil increase, I think we should. In the reason I say that is because of the retirement impact that our school district's gonna face in the next coming year. Until the state legislature fix that, if they ever do, I don't think they will, but this discussion's gonna get a lot worse next year. I don't know how many years you can use a fund balance to pay for the recurrent costs, but, we're going to be faced with a retirement increase of $400,000 or $500,000 next year. That's almost $2 million in taxes. Where's it going to come from? As you've gone through this budget process, you look at the budgets that everybody has turned in from every building. Everybody actually has spent less money this year than they did last year. And last year was a very restricted budget. I wasn't involved last year because I wasn't on the board. I understand how contentious it was and how much cutting was done. Even after that very austere year, people have made more cuts. And here we are asking to do different things for our school district. We're asking to educate more kids who have more problems. We're asking to add more programs. I don't think we should handcuff ourselves. So my proposal is that we institute a 1.64 million increase. It's not that terrible. It's only $3 more to the average taxpayer.
Just so you know, the difference between 1.64 and 1.5 mils is about $46,000 in revenue.
You know, $46,000 in our budget is a big deal. It really is. It's the difference between giving smart boards to third grade. Did you get a grant a few months ago for to get smart boards? Wasn't it $60,000 in it? Didn't supply a class for a group of classrooms?
We spent about $160.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but it's a significant amount of money when you pinch every penny until it fries.
$60,000, that's about a grade level in terms of like the elementary level of smart.
So that's my proposal. I think you guys have, I appreciate the amount of work. I appreciate the amount of information that he shared with the board. I mean, it really is an eye-opening experience. I've never been involved to this extent with listening to all this stuff. I kind of wish I wasn't, but now it goes. But it really is a eye-opening experience, and it was very educational. And it really is a tough thing to come up with. And I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of leeway. I think until our state legislature comes up with a better way of funding public school, we need to take advantage of our opportunities to pay for what we have.
Yes, when we looked at this thing before, you know, on the front sheet, you know, the expenditures that we're making, you know, to upgrade what we have to do in the district, you know, the net was $115,000. I mean, really. Then the difference is the $400,000 we have to make up with pieces. So that's where that's our entire 1.5 mil. So even if next year we hold the budgets again and they cut the numbers at the other buildings and we do so, you know, as we're tracking right now, we're still staring at another 1.5 mil next year. And make up the other $400,000 unless 100 teachers retire or something goes on and we get more revenue from somewhere. That's basically what we're looking at now, because that's what the district is looking at going forward.
Well, the state has to make their contribution too for us to make.
No, I netted it out. It was 838,000.
Yeah.
And it said it takes 419 out.
Net is that
Yeah.
building.
Is 4 to 5.
And the thing is the building principals can't keep cutting.
Yeah, they're-
Yeah, they
Cut
can't
that
keep
every
saying,
year.
here's less, here's less.
But I think that, I mean, I guess the message is to us that we have to find another $1.5 million every year somewhere. So,
Just
am I looking at it wrong?
No,
you're looking at it right.
You're looking at it correctly. And just to add to that, and I believe we've talked about this several times at the finance committee meetings, but we always do this, you know, long-range planning and future budgetary concerns. And, you know, we're all aware of the uncertainty of state funding. You know, historically, let's say we've got a 3% increase per year in state allocation. Last year, you know, we reduced by about $2 million. This year, you know, we're seeing a slight decrease, not as significant as last year, but that's an uncertainty. What's going to happen we have about a $340,000 capital reserve fund, okay? And we have over $170 million in capital assets district-wide. So we always have to be keeping in the back of our mind how we're going to continue to maintain and upkeep those facilities too. So that's something that's
People have to understand that this Peasers thing is not just retirement for teachers. I think a lot of people get mad about that. It's Pennsylvania state employee retirement system. It covers everybody who's ever worked for the state. It's every state worker. It's not just teachers and school district administrators. It's legislators, it's everybody who works in an office, in a government job. It's everybody that collects a state paycheck. Everybody. It's all those people. So we are in our school district supporting every state employee's retirement system. And it's going up every year. And we are getting hammered with this. And again, I recommend we go to 1.64 because that $46,000, maybe next year, is the principal can use that money for books or something. And we don't have that, we're not going to have that leeway every year. We can't keep asking these guys. You look at this thing here, this budget thing, where every school turned in their budget and asked for what they needed, and everybody's lower. Everybody.
What other opportunities are there for revenue generators? I mean, is there anything out there that, real estate's in the tank, so we're not seeing any money with that. We don't see any large sales.
No return on our investment.
Yeah, there's no ROI there at all. Well, let's develop the drive.
Turnstiles on our doors, and every time a kid comes in, I have to put a quarter in.
I'm not talking about that, Dave. I'm talking about, I'm asking Dan, there's no way, I know there's no way to forecast the real estate injection or cash that way. Is there any other revenue generator out there other than putting a quarter in the door? I'm asking,
yeah,
is there any other ideas?
None that I am aware of, other than, like, for example, we do participate in that energy curtailment program.
Right.
And if it's generating next to nothing, but historically that's generated some additional revenue for the school district. We've done some certain things with fees by taking over some programs and
that's a big help.
The tuition piece, that's helping to generate additional revenue for the school district. But like, I wish I could sit here and say that we could tap into this revenue source that we really haven't. I mean, obviously, we're all aware we're entering into fundraising efforts, and we're trying to think outside the box, and that way it started down that path. So I'm not aware of anything that we're not tapping into that we should be tapping into right now.
And that's my question.
Yeah.
Was there anything else out there?
They didn't draw any wells on our school district property.
No,
We did a release for that.
That lease expires in August of 2012, and it's on our radar to work with, with the administrative team to hopefully negotiate something best interest in the school. Just to also add, I know that we're looking into, Judy and the whole administrative team has actually been talking about brainstorming, but advertising. We've talked about that as an opportunity within our school district. Are there ways that we can take advantage? And I know there's some philosophical discussions we need to occur there, but we're looking into that as well. So more to come on that.
And I will tell you that I believe the administrative team and the staff have really done a wonderful job on raising revenue is always on our mind and always trying to figure out ways that we can do that, as well as to decrease costs. But Dr. Zorich, your comment is very understanding, and we agree. How many times can you cut a building budget to the extent that we've cut it over the last 2 years? And if the revenues don't start to increase, how do you manage that? I know that as a school district, we're not alone in that. All of the other school districts in the state are battling similar issues. But I want everyone to know that we really take a lot of time and energy thinking about and implementing as many revenue generating things that we can. We always talk about it, so I want to assure everyone that it is high on our list of things that we need to do.
Real estate, how can we control long-term recurring costs and generate new revenue, and that's what we're always looking to do.
And I think the money being spent out of the fund balance are truly non-recurring expenses, one-time expenses. And, I think that that's something that Dan reinforces continuously, that, clearly it is not appropriate to take out of the fund balance any kinds of costs that are recurring. And if you talk to districts that are really struggling even more so with their budgets, you'll find that they're actually dipping into those reserves for salaries, ongoing kinds of payments, and we have not gone to that level, and I commend Dan for that. So,
There are just a couple things I'd like to say to sum this up. The first is, I have an answer for Governor Corbett, who said that if your school taxes were going up, you needed to go and ask your local school directors why that was. Well, Governor, our entire raise in our school taxes can be attributed to the amount that we have to pay to the retirement fund. We have reduced all of our costs to the point where the only money we're proposing to raise for our local taxpayers will go into the state's retirement fund. And secondly, to my fellow board members, I'd like to recall to you last year's final budget adoption meeting. It is a moment that will live forever in my memory, not as a good thing. But there was nobody last year who was willing to raise another 1/10 of a mil. Instead, we were nickel and diming on 1/10 of mils until the point where some of us started voting no because we figured we'd lost the last nickel. It's a wonderful change to hear a board member say, let's add on another 1/10 of a mil because we're probably going to need it in the future. Because, not probably, we are going to need it in the future, if only to cover the PSERS increases which are projected in the handout that you got today. We've got to realize that for a couple cups of coffee a week at most, for the homeowners who have the most expensive homes in our school district, we are giving our students, all of them, from one end of the educational spectrum to the other, the best possible education that we are able to get for them. People move into this school district because we have such good schools. The value of the homes in this school district stays up because we have such good schools. A couple cups of coffee a month is a good thing to keep the value of your home over the period of time you own it. It would be wonderful if we could just raise taxes as we want to, but we have Act 1. And remember, concurrent with Act 1 was all that money we were going to get from the casinos. And what are we reading now? The casino in Pittsburgh is applying to have its value decreased on the tax rolls because it isn't making any money. There's something wrong with a lot of pictures in the way public education is funded in Pennsylvania. And the something wrong doesn't happen in rooms like this one. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elder, as always. Any other?
Oh, I would just like to thank everyone. I mean, this is a lot of parentheses on this budget. And I would most of all like to thank all of the building principals and all of everyone in their buildings. I mean, I never expected this. This is phenomenal. And thank you for the effort, thank you for all the work, and finding the dollars. You just made our job a lot easier. Thank you.
Anyone else have a comment?
I guess my point just to go back to my point is that there's 9 of us in the administration, we have to, and the folks in the buildings, and we have to work to keep the budgets as tight as we can. And the only way you keep the budget as tight as you can is to have folks like Dan and Judy and all of us keep an eye on the ball all the time. That's the only way we're gonna be able to keep it there. It's bad enough that we have to raise it, but it's, you know, or if we raise it or if we don't raise it, but you have to keep a cognizant eye on every dime that there is. You can't give up next year, you can't give up in 2014, 15, 16, 17. We all have to keep an eye on it going forward. And I guess my point is I don't wanna take my eye off. Once you start going down the road and you start picking a millage that we can start to live with, or we think that our constituents can live with, our fiduciary interest to the constituents and to the teachers starts to get rolled into a max. The next time we're gonna be sitting here saying, well, 1.64, you know what, next year 1.75. Then it starts to roll, and all of a sudden we're at 2 or 3 mils down the road. And I'm just, you know, I know we need to do a lot of things, but we also gotta keep our eye on the ball. And everybody in this board, everybody in the district is doing the right job.
Bill, are you looking at the same thing we are?
I am.
These people have worked their tails off. to
And
get
I
this budget
agree.
down.
Everybody has.
I think it's obnoxious to say to them, you've got to keep your eye on the ball.
No, I think
That's all they've done.
You cannot go forward and take your eye
Well,
off the
they're
ball.
not going
It's
to.
like, this has gotta be run like a business.
It is run like a business.
And it has
It's
to
no
continue to be
business.
like that. That's my point. That's my point.
I think they've done it.
Absolutely. Every one of them.
And I think to assume that they will ever take their eye off the ball or will ever not do that.
And what I see every day in my world.
Yeah, but this is a different place.
No, it's not that much
These
different.
people work,
I understand that.
you know, I mean, we have teachers putting in, I didn't add up the hours, but there were at least 40 hours or more
And I'm sure,
unpaid volunteer to give our kids the best possible math program going forward that our students will have access to.
and I agree with every
So-
dime that's being spent. Every dime. I just don't wanna see commission creep. And that's, you know, that's my heartburn.
You would have seen mission creep this year if these people hadn't done this work. I mean,
But that's their jobs.
well, I
That's our
understand.
jobs.
I understand that.
Well, that's all I, next
you
year
and
I
I
want it to be
agree
their job
about that.
again. I want it to be their job again. That's my only problem with this.
I think where we have to be careful is, and what Mrs. Elder said, you can't cut to the point where you're decreasing the value of your school district, because that's when the taxpayer home values go down. And our main job here, Bill, our main job here is to provide a free and appropriate public education to every student in our school district. It is not to watch the tax dollars. It is to make sure our students are getting the best possible education. We're here for kids. Bottom line. Bottom line.
I think not to interrupt you, Sue, but I have to agree with Kay. We've done our part. And I think the buck stops at the upper level now.
Exactly.
Because we've done everything down at the bottom, now let's climb the ladder, go to the next level. You do your part.
What I feel good about is all the cuts that we've made so far, I don't think have made a drastic impact on our programs for students. I think we've managed to maintain those, but that's not gonna keep happening if we have to keep the drastic cuts that we're making. And I do commend everybody who worked in the budget. I think they did a fantastic job. It can't continue at that level, especially in buildings, or it's gonna start affecting the education we provide to students, and I never, ever want that to happen. That's always been my main priority on the board. We look at kids first and what we're providing for them.
There's still a balance. There's still a balance, and you have to make sure the balance.
I think we've been balancing, and I think we've been doing the majority of the balancing, is what I'm saying.
I agree. I agree.
Just to summarize that, I will amend that based on some of the feedback that we've had. We'll bring that forward to vote, on the 22nd, and then what we'll do is, like Dr. George mentioned, we'll continue to monitor what's going on at the state level and the funding discussions they have, as well as any other expenditures that, you know, maybe we haven't planned for that come up between now and then. So we do have one other month, the month of June.
Sure. Okay. So we will have that on the agenda next week, or we keep We're meeting in 2 weeks, and I don't want the public to, I want the public to understand that our meeting is not gonna be 1 week later than usual. We will meet on the 22nd. We all keep saying 1 week, because that's what it typically is.
And in the meantime, if anybody who has a problem with their taxes going up needs the governor's phone number, it's in your local phone book. You can find it easily. See how much it costs.
I just have a question about last year. How many teachers were furloughed last year?
We reduced our staff by 11. They were not all furloughed. There was some retirements in that
We
as well.
reduced staff by what?
By 11 professional
How did that
staff.
impact elementary school class sizes for this time of year?
It did not.
It
We
didn't.
did not, because of our numbers in our elementary classrooms were already to the point that we could not add more without suffering instructionally. We did not cut from the elementary line.
What people have to understand too is, I hear a lot of people say to me, well, when I was in school, we had 40 kids in the classroom. When I was in school, we had 35. That's all bullshit, because that was 40 years ago. That's a different thing. The kids that are going to school today, and all the aides and the helpers and the things that are in classrooms is just mind-boggling to me. Every day I work in that emergency room and I see people that come in with such tremendous problems, and they're mixed in with our regular kids, and it's, and these people we're taking care of them, we're helping them through, and some of them are being benefited and some of them aren't. I mean, that's just the way life is, but we're asked to do a tremendous amount of things with less and less money every year, money that we pay to state income tax and state sales tax and state fees, and every year we get less of it, and we get more. We have to ask our taxpayers for more from local things when we're already paying money to these jabronis down there that don't do the job that they're supposed to do. So I'm frustrated by this. It really is frustrating to me. And I think, government has certain obligations to the public. And one of their major obligations to me is education. And if our local school district has to take the ball and carry it, then we should take the ball and carry it. I wish I was on the board last year when this stuff was going on. I really wish I was. Because I would not stood for some of the stuff that happened. I really would, because to cut public education makes absolutely no sense to me. None whatsoever. And to squeeze every penny till it's dry makes no sense to me. I don't say we go in there and just throw money at things. I'm never for that. This school district has never done that. I was on the board before, and you want to talk about pennies crying. They used to scream for help. So this school district has had a history of being strict and tight and looking at every penny they spend and not throwing money away. We've done that. We've done our responsibility to our taxpayers and our citizens, and always have. And looking at this year's budget, we've done it again. This is unbelievable to me that they can do this. For crying out loud, the cost of living goes up every year. I don't think our cost of living, if we factor that into this, I don't know what it is, the cost of living. It can't be with this budget went up by. It has to be more. For crying out loud, you buy a couple of bars of soap and you're going to pay more money. And we're asking to spend less money to run a school district that has 4,000 kids. I mean, come on, man. 1.64 meals to me is nothing. I think we've got to do it.
Anyone else wish to comment? Thank you, Mr. Zeller. We'll move to property and supply with Mr. Kozar.
Thank you. We have a meeting on May 3rd, and our next meeting will be June 7th. And we will, an agenda item for next following week. We will approve bids, request bids for the senior high auditorium rigging system and the demo rack. And this evening, I would like to welcome Hank.
Gotcha.
Can't do that. And I'm sorry.
If you try to read, you can't pronounce it.
Sorry, Hank. Hank's here.
Hi, everyone. You should have two handouts. One is an updated progress set of, a small progress set of the drawings. I whittled down, we're up to about 50 or 75 sheets that I set. I passed out a half done for you. And a brief outline to continue to be brief, because it sounds like it's going to be a long night. The schematic design phase is complete. Everything went very well. The project's moving right along. We're well into design development. In fact, in some cases, we've pushed the schedule a little bit ahead on the building portions of the project because they are moving along very well. So I've taken a jump into some construction document phase type of things, putting details on the drawings, those types of things. And the reason I've done that is because the site work is still waiting for some of the other elements to be finished. The survey is scheduled to be finished this week. It's slightly behind, but we do have a preliminary one that we've been working off of that's allowed us to continue working. And the geotechnical report that you approved last month is not behind, it's on schedule, it's working well, it's scheduled to be completed at the end of the month. But those two items are needed to do the things like the design of the fill slopes and the cut slopes, the design of the building foundations, those types of things we need the information that we're waiting on. So while we're waiting for that, we're moving other portions ahead that we can. The animated computer rendering is in progress. That's moving right along well too. That will be used as part of your fundraising efforts, as talked about here tonight for some things. And that's scheduled to be finished by the end of this month also. There are no board actions as far as this project is concerned that are required in May. I don't see any board actions required in May or June or July at this point. So we have the information we need. We've made the commitments you needed to make. We've got the consultants that we needed to have on board. It's now up to us to continue meeting the schedule. Are there any questions with any of this?
Just real quick, I can't remember, what happened with that hallway between the high school and junior high? Is that in this, or is that in this?
I
can't remember what phase that was.
There are basically two separate projects going on. One is the athletic complex piece, the other is the junior high piece, and that corridor fell into the junior high piece. And we've had meetings and discussed the way to handle that. And at the last round of meetings, it was suggested that we do the repairs to that hallway that need to be done, deal with the expansive material that's hitting the floor, and deal with the finishes in that space. But look at another means to get the public into the junior high gymnasium so that they're not walking between the buildings past the dumpsters. And
That's what I was asking, that piece there.
And into that corridor and then down another back corridor to get to the gymnasium. And the idea is with this new junior high piece of dealing with the main corridor there and creating some of the same art opportunities that are here at the high school over at the junior high. The idea is to, with some building security systems of rolling down doors and gates, we can partition off the majority of the building and allow the public to use the main junior high entrance and walk down this corridor past these displays, past these improvements to the gymnasium and not have to go in the back door.
I'd just like to comment to the board that the virtual tour that Hank is referencing is being paid for by donated dollars, specific for the virtual tour. So I just wanted to.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Coker. And we'll go to student activities and recreation, Dr. Lockman.
The spring, just information, the spring sports awards is May 21st
first I have to apologize for swearing. I think I swore once, didn't I? I have to be careful. I forget where I am sometimes, and something came out, I apologize for it. Community relations, there's information about the Latrobe Community Parks and Recreation minutes, 3:15. These are no students here, but I see that camera there, and I'm getting awful nervous. Hi, public. How you doing? That's it.
Thank you. You need to be sitting here, you'll remember it. You don't forget it here.
Good have been worse.
Okay, intermediate unit liaison, your WID board meeting summary is, item 6 in your packet. That was from the meeting on April the 24th. And on the agenda next week will be an adoption of policies, procedures, and use of funds by a school district, in other words, IDEA regulations. So those will be on for approval next week on your agenda. Anything else about the item? EWCTC Joint Operating Committee, Mrs. Kozar.
There's a summary of the JOC's actions, it's item number 7 in your packet. And the other thing I want to remind you of is the EWCTC Senior Recognition Ceremony will be May 23rd at 7 p.m. at our auditorium. And you're all invited, and we hope you will join us. It's lovely. It is really, really lovely. Fun thing to come see you all here.
Thank you. Thank you. Board policy, BSBA liaison, Mrs. Elder.
We'll have on the agenda accepting board policy section 200. I'm not sure what the plan is for having the board look at that ahead of time.
We contacted the state, and number one, we can do it in one reading. We can send this to you electronically if you'd like to review it. As the board is aware, the district, about a year and a half ago, contracted with PSBA to review all of our policies, section 100 through 700. Section 200 deals with pupils, and basically the administrative staff, as well as myself, went through section 200, reviewed the changes that were suggested by PSBA, as well as made any notable changes and sent it back to PSBA for their review. They sent it back. The reason that we're asking that section 200 be approved by the board without sections 100, 300, 400, and so on, is that many of these sections need to be referenced or copied into our student handbooks. Our student handbooks are a work in progress always, but we need to get them to the printer beginning of July. They're probably telling me earlier, but we need to get these policies approved. Otherwise, we would have to do additional printing and pass them out after the handbook is given. And so we really don't want to do that because of the importance. And one of the huge changes that PSBA referenced to us in the 200 section was that they should be in our student handbooks. We've always included certain policies, such as our technology policy and so on, but clearly the number of policies that they want us to include in our handbook have risen a lot. I mean, I can't give you the exact number, but there was at least probably 10 or 12. So we need to get those approved so we can include them. So what we can do is we'll send this to you electronically, and you can review them. If anybody wants a hard copy, we can certainly mail it to you as well. The changes are in dark print or bold, so you would know which ones have been changed. This is only the pupil section that we're referencing. Okay. Mrs. Laser?
And not all of the policies within that 200 section
Have been changed.
Have been changed, right. And we will do similar with sections 100 and 300 and so on. But as we can well imagine, it takes quite a bit of time for all of us to sit down and review them. For instance, Dan is reviewing the business section policies, the 600 group, we will bring those back to you as well. Again, we thought this was a real important piece about a year ago to contract with PSBA, but because of putting them in the handbook, that's what's prompted the approval of just one section. So, but we'll send it out to you. You can look at it. Having 2 weeks instead of 1 week will give everyone a lot of time to be able to look at them and call their email
next meeting is at 4 o'clock on May 10th, and at the next meeting we'll also be looking for approval for our vendor for the wireless network we're putting in.
Thank you.
May I ask, how did the parent meetings on Monday go?
They actually went well. I want to say we probably had a little over 100 parents attend in total. We had 4 different meetings spread throughout the day, two during the day and 2 in the evening to try to accommodate everybody's schedule. I did a presentation.
And to put it in the paper for us.
There you go. I was saying that very perfunctorily, that I was hoping that maybe Dan would pick up
Talk to
on
Mrs. Pines after the
Friday
meeting.
meeting at the high school all day. Mrs. Pines will be here for every student who is going to be a sophomore at Greater Latrobe Senior High School next year. We'll take that microphone a little higher there, Dan. It's about here. Friday.
Not too much pressure.
Teasing.
Right. All right, moving on. Superintendent's recommendations.
On the 22nd, there will be, we will ask the board to move on resolutions for resignations for the 4 people that are listed there, as well as the support personnel appointments, as well as asking you to appoint the on-road driver ed instructors. This is an annual thing that we do. All of the paperwork has been already collected for next year, so we'd ask that you move on those particular on-the-road driver education instructors at the next meeting. In addition, I can't say often enough that there is no meeting next Tuesday, that it is May 22nd here at the CSC. In addition, there's been many questions as to the infamous snow day we have on April 24th. We do not have an action for the board to approve an additional student day because we are not adding a student day. That'll get a headline for you in the newspaper. No added student day. We are, however, adding an additional teacher day, and that will be June 5th. So the last day for students remains to be June 1st. Graduation is still June 1st, which is Friday. That made Mr. Lacasio happy that graduation was not changed. The previous last day for teachers was Monday, June 4th. It will now be Tuesday, June 5th. So we can get that out there. Breakfast of Champions is this Thursday at 7:15. Is the last one of the school year, if anybody can attend. The Adams Memorial Library is always on Memorial Day weekend, Friday evening, which it is here, May 25th at 7. We are celebrating our district retirements this year on June 4th at 8 a.m. If anybody is interested in attending, please feel free. It's a good time to be had by all, especially the retirees. And our student recognition and awards program that Mr. Lacasio and Mr. Kralik moved to the evening last year is Thursday, May 24th at 7 p.m. If you can attend, it really is a nice event to recognize those students who, are you going to tell me the date has changed, Steve?
No, I just want to go back. The Breakfast of Champions, I believe you said is this weekend, or this Thursday, it's next Thursday.
Oh, I'm wrong on the date. I apologize.
The date on the paper is correct.
Thank you. So I was wrong.
It's not this Thursday.
I know. He's telling
I'm not
me
gonna
you're
say that.
wrong. No, it's Thursday, May 17th. And also tomorrow night is the Excellence in Education Banquet that the Chamber recognizes the students from Latrobe, Darien, and Ligonier who were in the top 5% of their class. They nominate a teacher, which I think is the best part of the evening. Not that the students should be recognized, but they do a really nice event. It's a dinner